Okay, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It's 11 o'clock on my watch. Can begin this media briefing. My name is David Mandaha. I will be sharing this session. So the Chief Electoral Officer, Mr. Saima Mabulo, today will brief you on a number of activities that the organization is embarking on, looking ahead to the 2026-27 local government elections. Among others, the Chief Electoral Officer will touch on, party representatives, registration of political parties, elections report. He will also touch on that, and of course the preparation of the LGE. I'm not going to waste any more time. I've got Mr. Saima Mabulo, is the Chief Electoral Officer. Sitting next to him is the Deputy Chief Electoral Officer, Mr. Masejo Shivuri. We'll give the podium to the CEO, and then immediately after that, I'll then allow you to engage the leadership of the organization. Let me now invite the CEO, Mr. Saima Mabulo. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, David, and good morning to everybody. We wish to present an update on several key developments in the electoral landscape, as well as our activities in the first quarter of the present financial year and upcoming activities as we prepare for the municipal elections next year. And as will become apparent from the contents of this statement, our institutional efforts underscore a commitment to a transparent and inclusive electoral process that ensures that all stakeholders are well informed and thus able to participate meaningfully. This media briefing takes place during a pivotal month when we commemorate the monumental contributions of women in bringing about the democratic order and their continued contributions to sustaining electoral democracy. The following key statistics are worth noting as we commemorate Women's Month. 55% of the 27.6 million registered voters are women. And in the 2024 general elections, 57% of the 16.2 million voters were women. Women's representations in Parliament stands at 43%, which marks a regrettable marginal reduction from the previous 46% following the 2019 general elections. But impressively, women continue to constitute the majority of electoral staff cohort at 73%. During Women's Month, the Electoral Commission is engaging stakeholders to promote inclusive participation and gender equality in the electoral process across all the 9 provinces. Tomorrow, the Commission will host its national event celebrating women championing democracy at the Constitutional Hill Women's Jail, which is in Johannesburg. The event will bring together stakeholders from diverse sectors, including political parties, civil society, women in business, as well as representatives from the youth and disability sectors. The event will further explore steps to foster greater participation of women, both as candidates and elected representatives. Now we turn to matters related to the elections report, the 2024 elections report. In accordance with the provisions of the Electoral Commission Act, the Commission tabled the 2024 national and provincial elections report in the National Assembly in early July this year. The Portfolio Committee on Home Affairs then invited the Commission to a presentation of the report on 15 July. The discussions with the Portfolio Committee were robust, which is a condition necessary for improved electoral performance. The highlights of the 2024 elections report are as follows. The report itself makes the point that the elections met international standards for freeness and fairness and met the constitutional and legal standards. The 2024 general elections were a huge national undertaking, with the following as some of the salient statistics. 27.78 million registered voters, which is the highest since 1999, when the voters' roll was first introduced. 23,292 voting stations were used, of which 936 were temporary voting stations and 32 were mobiles. The import of these voting station numbers is that, on average, the number of voters per voting station has been reduced from 1,900 to 916. 90 million ballot papers were printed in an immutable three-week printing window period. A dual column ballot paper was used for the first time in the elections of the National Assembly. This was necessary to accommodate the increased number of contestants. 70 parties took part in these elections, which is, again, the highest number of parties ever to participate in such an election. 14,886 candidates, of which 11 were participating for the first time as independent candidates, also took part. 16.2 million citizens voted, representing a voter turnout of 58%. Of this, 1.1 million voted using the special voting dispensation in the 2 days preceding voting day. 200,526 election staff were recruited and trained for various roles within the voting station. There was increased litigation with over 88 cases challenging various aspects of the electoral process. The Electoral Commission prevailed in all except one, which relates to the establishing special voting stations outside of the official foreign missions of the Republic. An appeal in this matter is pending in the Supreme Court of Appeal. Now, turning to the matter related to the leaderboard. The Commission explained to the Portfolio Committee that the technical glitch relating to the leaderboard was not evidence of a hacking attempt nor a manifestation of hacking, but rather that it resulted when an optimization solution was taken into production to expedite the transfer of results data from our primary database into a data warehouse. The data warehouse pulls results data in through a process called extract, transform, and load, which in short stands for ETL. Firstly, the data warehouse is then used to run several validations, such as whether a result has been audited, whether the associated result slip has been scanned, and whether there were no exceptions or edit windows related to a particular result. These validations determine whether a result is complete and therefore ready to display or not. Secondly, the data is replicated, or rather transferred, to another data warehouse at the National Results Operations Center, from where the results are disseminated based on their completeness status. In other words, the ready-to-display voting district data is made available to the leaderboard, provincial result centers, the media, and political parties, while various management reports relating to the status of voting districts not yet completed are made available for internal purposes only. Inadvertently, when the optimization solution was taken to production, all voting stations were set to the initial status of not ready to display. Hence, the leaderboard then went without any numbers on. At the conclusion, the Portfolio Committee welcomed the report, acknowledged that there were areas for improvement, but commended the Commission for delivering a free, fair, and credible election. The report is available on the website of the Commission. Now, preparations for the municipal elections 2026-2027. The law provides that the term of a municipal council is 5 years and that elections must be held no later than 90 days following the end of term. The current municipal councils were elected on 1 November 2021. This means that the current term will end on 2 November 2026. Therefore, the general elections of municipal council fall due between 2 November 2026 and the end of January 2027. The authority to set a date and call an election lies with the Minister of Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs following consultation with the Commission. Consultations between the Minister and the Commission have commenced but yet to be concluded. The municipal wards are the political boundaries within which a single councillor is elected based on the first past the post principle. In this regard, the Municipal Demarcation Board plays a pivotal role in shaping the political geography of the country through the determination of both municipal as well as ward boundaries. The MDB has indicated that it is about to conclude the ward delimitation process. Crucially, the MDB will hand over final wards boundaries to the Commission at the end of October this year. There will, however, be a residual of 18 municipalities that will be handed over at the later stage. The latter case relates to municipalities that were subject to requests for a review of external boundaries. Engagements with the MDB are planned to agree on the precise date for the receipt of wards for these residual municipalities. Once the MDB provides the final set of wards to the Commission will analyze its network of voting stations to ensure that they are geographically aligned to the final ward boundaries in preparation for voter registration ahead of the next elections. Elections of representatives. From 1st April this year, the Commission has administered 39 ward by-elections. The highest number of vacancies arose in the Gauteng municipalities, with 8 ward vacancies, followed by the Eastern Cape and Western Cape, both with 7 ward vacancies. KwaZulu-Natal had 6 ward vacancies. The overall average voter turnout for this by-election stands at 41.58%. The proportional representation councillor vacancies can only be filled by the Chief Electoral Officer declaring a replacement councillor elected. In the current financial year, that is April to August 2025, the Commission has replaced 149 proportional representation councillors. On average, the Commission replaces 377 PR councillors in a year. The registration of parties. Since the 2024 general election, the Commission has registered a total of 34 new political parties. 13 of the new political parties were registered in the period between July 2025 and today. Currently, the total number of registered political parties is 472. Of this, 287 are registered on a national level, while the balance of 185 are either registered provincially or on the district or metro level. Political contestants remain critical in the planning phase of an election. The Commission will convene a series of information sessions starting in November 2025 with registered but unrepresented political parties and aspiring independent candidates. These sessions will mark the beginning of a formal consultation with key stakeholders and will focus on, amongst others, the following: the legislative scheme for local government, requirements to contest for seats in a municipal council, the roadmap to elections and critical milestones, and lastly, how votes are converted into seats in a municipal council. On 18 and 19 June 2025, the Commission held an inaugural symposium on political funding in South Africa. The symposium brought together leaders of political parties, parliamentarians, representatives of civil society, and the academia to evaluate progress since the promulgation of the party funding law, including strides made reaching the desired ideal state. Key highlights from the conference include the following: the adequacy of the current party funding disclosure requirement was raised for potential review. Stakeholders emphasized the importance of extending political funding support to the local sphere, exploring funding mechanisms for unrepresented political parties in order to improve inclusivity. They also raised the need to strengthen oversight and institutional capacity, particularly as it relates to monitoring and enforcement of the political funding regulatory framework. A call for increased public awareness and engagement to encourage private donors to better understand and enhance contributions to the Multi-Party Democracy Fund. We call on Corporate South Africa to donate to the Multi-Party Democracy Fund, which helps to foster a vibrant and amplify different political voices. So we are in the process of preparing a report on the symposium, highlighting key recommendations for the consideration by Parliament. The Electoral Commission further acknowledges the recent amendment to the regulations on party funding. These revised regulations were promulgated by the President on 18 August 2025. Under the revised rules, the minimum disclosure threshold has increased from 100,000 to 200,000, while the maximum allowable annual donation has risen from 15 million to 30 million in a financial year. We also noted the decision of the Western Cape High Court, in which the application that was raised by my vote count was dismissed by the court. The application related to challenging the determination or rather the increased threshold figures as well as the maximum allowable. The Electoral Commission Civic and Democracy Education Program continues to play a pivotal role in citizen engagement. Between April and August, the Electoral Commission hosted no fewer than 24,000 face-to-face voter education events to foster a culture of civic responsibility. The breakdown per province shows that Limpopo recorded the highest number of events at 4,500, KwaZulu-Natal following at 4,100, and the Eastern Cape at 3,448. Gauteng conducted 2,961 events, while Mpumalanga and the Western Cape registered 2,700 and 2,400 events respectively. Northwest, 1,782, Free State, 1,172, and the Northern Cape, 1,168. The focus of these events was on encouraging and preparing first-time voters to ensure that they are registered and given the necessary information they need to remain active citizens, as well as fostering responsible citizenship among that age cohort of young persons. Now, turning to the constitution of the Commission, the Electoral Commission has 3 vacancies that come into effect in November 2025. In this regard, we wish to thank the Chief Justice and members of her panel for successfully concluding the interview process for the selection of new commissioners. The Chief Justice has now tabled a report with a short list of 8 candidates in the National Assembly. We have further noted that the National Assembly has since referred the matter to the Portfolio Committee on Home Affairs for processing. Once the Portfolio Committee completes its deliberations, a report with 3 recommended candidates will be submitted to the National Assembly for resolution. Thereafter, the resolution of the National Assembly will be transmitted to the President, who will make the appointments and designate a chairperson. The term of office of members of the Commission is 7 years, which is renewable once. The Electoral Commission, turning to electronic voting, the Electoral Commission urges all South Africans to actively participate in the ongoing public consultation on the feasibility and desirability of introducing electronic voting at some point in the future. Public consultations are currently taking place across all provinces to ensure an inclusive and wide-ranging engagement on the policy document. We invite South Africans to submit their views, proposals, and concerns on this important matter. Submissions should be sent to the email evoting@elections.org.za by no later than the end of September. Following the conclusion of the consultation process, the Commission will integrate the comments into the current discussion document to produce a green paper. The green paper will then be presented to the Minister of Home Affairs to process through the relevant constitutional structures. We take the opportunity to emphasize that the Commission has not yet decided on implementing electronic voting. The current physical ballot papers will be used in the forthcoming municipal elections, as there is no official national policy nor legislative framework on electronic voting. Now we turn to the audit outcomes. The Electoral Commission is pleased to announce that the Auditor General of South Africa has completed the external audit of the Electoral Commission as well as the political funding financial statements. Both audits resulted in a clean audit opinion, an achievement which the Commission has now secured for the fifth consecutive year. A clean audit opinion attests to the fact that the Electoral Commission manages the public resources placed at its disposal prudently and in accordance with the prescripts. The Commission commends its staff for working tirelessly to ensure that accountability, proficiency, and transparency remain at the center of the organization's business practices. I'm sure members of the media will also congratulate us. The Electoral Commission wishes to warn the public about fake adverts and fraudulent pages that falsely claim to be linked to the organization. These scams are designed to mislead people into clicking on deceptive links and facilitating the sharing of personal information. The Commission advises that all legitimate positions are advertised only on the official website and verified social media platforms of the organization. So as we prepare for the 2026 elections, citizens are reminded to register to vote in voting districts of the wards where they are resident. A registered voter who has moved since they last registered is urged to check and, if necessary, to update their address details to ensure that they are registered in a ward linked to their new place of residence. Registering as a voter and updating your registration is quick and easy. Voters may register, inspect, and update their details by visiting registertovote.elections.org.za, which facility is available 24 hours a day. The process is quick, safe, and secure. Simply keep your identity document at hand and follow the prompts. You can update your details from the comfort of your home in just a few minutes. So our message is register and update your voter registration details today, because every vote counts and your voice has the power to shape your community. I wish to thank you.
No, thank you. Thank you very much, CEO. I will now open the floor for any question from your side. I think I will start from this side, going to this side. Yes, noted. Okay, let me start with you there. You may proceed, yes.
Sorry, good morning, everybody. It's Natasha Perry here from SABC News. I have a couple of questions. Just on the political party funding, those amendments. So the President has amended these thresholds and the upper limits, but remember there's that judgment at the Western Cape High Court on this matter. My vote is saying, should the court rule in their favor, the amendments will be set aside with the full retrospect effect, including the determination of these new limits. I just want to know how this will affect the work of the Commission. Furthermore, my vote counts also says that there'll be more secrecy in political party funding, as political parties now only have to declare 200,000 to 30 million. So those under, if any political party or any donations are made, won't be declared. How do you respond to that claim? And then just on e-voting, you're conducting those road shows. I think they're going to end in September or something. But I mean, what discussions, what are people saying, what concerns are people raising on e-voting? Are people actually warming up to this idea of e-voting? If you can just tell us some of those themes. And just staying on the matter of e-voting, you've also reiterated right now in that Desai that the Commission is not ready to introduce e-voting in next year's elections, also in 2029. Those are the sentiments that you actually expressed earlier on at the e-voting conference. But I don't know if you were last week, the MK party had said that you're trying to smuggle in e-voting by the back door. If you could just respond to that. And then, just on the work of the Municipal Demarcation Board, the last time you briefed the media, you had said that I think they've got a deadline or a report that they have to hand over to you in October. I don't want to jump the gun, but I just want to know that they've just recently resolved not to tamper with any municipal boundaries currently. How will this probably affect or not affect the work of the IEC? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Let me check if there's someone this side. Oh, yes. Please go ahead, Muluku.
Good morning. My name is Muluku Mloto from ENCA. I just want to understand, I think I heard you saying that you are awaiting a report from the Municipal Demarcation Board. Maybe tell us the work that you have done, specifically in terms of the box ticking exercise ahead of next year's elections. And on the issue of trying to entice young people in particular, do you have new innovative ways? Would you say your previous attempts to get them on board and have them registered have failed? Those are my questions for now.
Thank you very much. I think I saw a hand this side. Please introduce yourself, ma'am.
Wikanyo Malepe, MDN TV.
Thank you.
Let me first congratulate the IEC for achieving clean audit. I have, for now, let me just take one question. During last year's national election, some voting stations experienced serious network problem that prevents scanners from functioning, causing delay. How will the IEC planning to address this for 2026 election? And will you change the affected voting station, or are you introducing alternative measures to ensure voting isn't disrupted in areas with poor connectivity? And the second question is in relation to the regulation. Beside the political funding one amendment, are there any pending legislative or regulatory changes that may affect the 2026 local election timeline and processes? Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think I will invite the CEO to come back. When I come back, I think I'll come back for the second round and look at the social media as well if there are questions online. Thank you. Over to you, DCO.
Thanks. I'll deal with all questions bar those on party funding. What is the feedback on e-voting? The feedback has been mixed, which illustrates the varied understanding of what e-voting is and what it is that it can do for elections. To that end, the workshops gave us an opportunity then to start to create a common understanding of what e-voting is, as well as the varied technologies that underpin e-voting. Because if you understand e-voting to mean remote voting, you'll have apprehension about cyber attacks and foreign interference. If, however, you accept that e-voting could also mean secured voting in a controlled environment, then the issues of cyber attacks are lessened because you can put in measures at a voting station to deal with those. We have also been pleased because assumptions have been that people in rural areas will have an aversion towards e-voting. We do not have evidence to suggest that persons who are in rural settings are more or less inclined to go for e-voting than people in urban centers. However, people are worried about the controls that will put in place to ensure that whatever type of e-voting does not accentuate cleavages of inequality in society, but rather transcends those difficulties. Two, that it should be an equalizer of an opportunity so that it does not disproportionately either suppress or increase the turnout of certain demographics. Turning to Muluku's question on the whether previous efforts on getting young persons to be engaged have been a failure. No, we do not think that those initiatives have been a failure, because of the following. Young persons have had disproportionately fewer opportunities than older generations to register and to vote. Two, we do not ascribe to the understanding that there's apathy among young persons, because from our own research, once registered, younger persons are more likely to vote than any age cohort. In fact, they're 10 times more likely to vote than any age cohort. In 2021 elections, over 70% of young persons who registered for the first time in those elections turned out and cast a vote. We think we should persist with all those efforts that are targeted at young persons, to look at removing barriers, if there are any, to registration and to participation. We persist with our online voter registration. We also support that with school-based voter registration and civic education drives, as well as drives in all tertiary institutions, be they TVET colleges or university campuses. The last question related to the poor connectivity and its impact on the functioning of our scanners in 2024, and the question whether we will still use those voting stations in future elections. On voting day, the voter registration, the voter management app runs 5 applications, apps that are in-house developed. Last year, as will be evident from the election report, we had challenges with one of those apps, that is the voter registration app. It created duplicate records and therefore slowed down the rate at which we could confirm the correctness of voters at their voting station. It was not necessarily a connectivity issue, because our VMD is designed to work both online and offline in recognition of the different penetration levels of network in the country. So it is provisioned to work in offline mode where it cannot create a connection. It's provisioned to work in online mode where it can get a stable connection that is uninterrupted. So the difficulty that we experienced was the malfunction of the voter registration app. We have isolated the issue, we have rewritten that app, and we will be commissioning external validation to give us assurance that the app will function as it is coded to do on voter registration. On by-elections that we've had since the elections, we've not struggled. The app has shown improved performance. I'll leave the question on party funding to the Chief Electoral Officer. Sorry.
Thank you. I think Mloko also asked us, what have we done? We've done a lot to prepare for the municipal elections. Amongst the things that we've done is to rebuild the applications that we use on the voter management device, in particular the voters roll app that Mr. Shiburi just spoke about. We have concluded our chart of milestones for the elections. So the detailed planning, project charter by project charter, is now complete, and we are in the process of starting to monitor ourselves against those determined milestones for the election. So this is important because you'll know that an election, you don't plan an election in the last 6 months or so. You need at least 18 months to prepare for an election. So all those preparatory work and the details that relates to that are now complete. We will be having an internal planning in Daba as well in October, just to socialize the plans across the various elements of the organization. But of course, when we receive the final awards at the end of October from the MDB, that will provide an impetus to the preparations, because we will gear up from plans into practical work on preparations for elections. We've also done a lot of work to isolate voting stations where we had difficulties and long queues. We are looking at what needs to be done to improve voting station efficiency in relation to densely populated voting stations. We're working on about 300 or so where we experienced big queues on election day. So with regard to the challenge by my vote counts to the determination of the increased thresholds by Parliament, there's a judgment that was issued in that case in the last few days. I just don't know whether it was Friday or so, but there is a judgment that was issued by the Western Cape High Court. That judgment has dismissed the my votes counts application, and that's where the matter is at. We were not an active litigant in that matter, precisely because the issue related to the determination of thresholds and so on, it's something that is outside of the purview of the Commission. And which takes me to the second element of your question. There is more secrecy in the political funding landscape. Again, we prefer no view, because it is Parliament, it's a political decision that was taken by Parliament, over which we have no control. It's a matter that legislatively rests with Parliament, who took a resolution to that effect, and the President then gave it effect by issuing the regulation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, CEO and DCO. I think let me start now with the online audience. If there are any questions, I know Butsilo is monitoring that for us. Please go ahead.
Yes, good morning. On Facebook Live, we have a question from Milton Junkies, who poses the question that the MDB hasn't finalized the report, but why does the IEC website already have new voting stations on the map? And we have two other questions that are coming from Mr. Stephen Siakwe, who is the editor of Mapepeza community newspaper. He poses the question, will the Multi-Party Democracy Fund support local parties contesting in the LGE 2026, or is it only applicable to national and provincial parties? And lastly, he asks, how will the Commission combat fake job advertising, as there are unconfirmed reports of municipalities controlling who will be hired as election officials? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Utsilo. Let me see if there is any hand. Oh, I see you, KG, at the back. Yes, okay. Let me start with you, KG, and then we'll go this side.
Thank you. I'm Kawelo Magoleo from UFM. I've got a couple of questions. On the Multi-Party Democracy Fund, I want to I'm trying to find out as to how much money is usually raised with that project and where does it go to. I'm trying to compare it with direct donations that are going to parties, whether this fund is attractive to donors in your own assessment. And then regarding registration of new parties, are there any names that are being disputed? We saw the Boy Mama Volo Mandela situation lately. Are there any other that are happening like that? And then finally, with regard to the ongoing public consultations about e-voting, are you able to give us an idea of the demographics that are turning out for those, particularly those who are turning out under a banner of a political party? Because I think we already know of certain political parties that are just generally apprehensive about the idea of digital voting. And I said finally, apologies, David.
Okay.
This is the last one. A few months ago, there was a case at the Concord where South Africans that left the country willingly to take up citizenship elsewhere won the right to reclaim their South African citizenship. Have you seen a trend of new registrations of voters from abroad that may not have been there? Thank you.
Thank you very much.
No. That was last. Thank you.
No, thank you very much. Yes, my brother.
Raymond, Netwerk Friend. I just want to follow up on my colleague. How many political parties registration were declined by the IEC? Because I see you said 34 was registered since 2004. And then has there been any formal or informal discussions with the Minister of Kohta regarding a possible date for the elections? And when do you expect that discussions to happen? And lastly, regarding party funding, do the IEC think that they have the correct body to administer and look at the party funding regarding to see what money comes in and what goes out? So is the IEC the correct body to monitor the party funding? Or do you perhaps think that perhaps another body should perhaps take over that work? Thank you.
Thank you very much. This side. Yes, sir.
Afternoon. My name is Masule Ralivana from the SABC. Talking about the cost of elections, I just want to know how much is the cost of a by-election, like a ward election, and also in a situation where a municipality is dissolved, like you had Tabazimbi and Zobotla so far. How much are we looking at? Thank you.
Thank you very much. I don't see any hand. We good that side? All right. All right. Now let me invite the CEO and the TCO to answer to the questions. Thank you.
Let's invert the order in response. The cost of by-elections and dissolved municipal-wide by-election, we can make the information available. We do not have it on hand. As you appreciate, the amounts will vary because the wards are not necessarily the same. The sizes of dissolved municipalities are also not the same. Consultations between the Commission and the Minister responsible for setting and calling the elections have commenced. They remain indeterminate. However, both the Commission and the Minister are acutely aware that the sooner a determination is made, we can have certainty to enable all contestants to plan. So the consultations are ongoing. As soon as there is a decision, the Minister will then at appropriate time indicate the date for the elections. The number of parties that have been, whose registrations have been declined. We decline, I think, on average about 5 parties in a month. However, a declined registration is not permanent. What it means is that a party can resubmit a new application having cured the shortcomings that were attended to its application. So to give you a round figure might be misleading because some of those end up being registered subsequently. There is no discernible increase in the number of South Africans registering to vote abroad, i.e. South Africans who have left the country either on a long-term or short-term basis. Since the court order, there's not been any discernible increase in the number of registrations. Again, there, South Africans abroad can also apply for registration using the online platform to do so. They are no longer restricted to the window period that we make available ahead of an election to register at their embassies. The number of parties that have been rejected recently and for which there are objections, as we speak, there are 2 live appeals before the Commission. One is at the instant of the Islamic State of Africa. The party applied for registration. The Chief Electoral Officer declined to register the party, and in terms of the scheme, an aggrieved party may appeal the decision of the Chief Electoral Officer to the Commission. We understand that that has happened. The Commission is yet to give a decision on the outcome of its consideration of the appeal to the affected party. Similarly, the registration of Mandela for President, a party founded by Mr. Boy Mamabolo, the party's registration was declined. We understand that the founder may have communicated with the Commission to lodge an objection or an appeal. Again, there we are awaiting the Commission determination of that submission from that party. Again, I'll skip the question on the MPDF and defer to the CEO. Let me deal with the MDB. The MDB, it's true, is yet to release the final ward maps. So the wards that are on the website of the IEC are the current configuration of wards as they legally stand today. They will remain so until the MDB has finalized their ward determinations. Batch 1, the majority of the wards will be done at the end of October this year, and batch 2 will be done at a later date that we still have to agree with the MDB. There was a question that I omitted to respond to in the last round of question. Unavoidably, the Commission will be proposing legislative amendments to the Electoral Act in order to better regulate objections that are made to the voters' roll. As you know, ahead of an election, the Commission makes available the voters' roll to facilitate interested persons to raise objections against the inclusion or exclusion of certain persons from segments of the voters' roll. So that will be one amendment so that the Commission will have powers to better deal with objections to the voters' roll, to make decisions on a factual basis as it relates to objections that may have been raised on the inclusion or exclusion of persons on the roll. Sir?
The Chief Electoral Officer has not considered properly my brother's application for a party. So the Chief Electoral Officer is actually out of order. Anyway, the question related to the Multi-Party Democracy Fund. The Multi-Party Democracy Fund, in law, may only distribute contributions to the fund to parties and or independent candidates who hold representation in the National Assembly and or provincial legislatures. So in short, it's not, the current law does not provide for the inclusion of parties in the local sphere, which is why at the symposium that was raised as a matter for possible review and correction for the future. How much has it received? It's it's not there's not been substantial contributions into the fund. And one of the problems that potential donors are raising is there are no tax benefits to making contributions. Now, any tax dispensation is a matter that the Minister of Finance would have to deal with. Whether it's desirable or not is a question that can only be answered at that end. Yet there are corporates who have tried to make contributions, such as Vodacom, Standard Bank, and so on. We've received contributions from those corporates. We want to call on corporate South Africa that we have to insulate our democracy from external financial influences. And one way of doing so is to ensure that as corporates, they make contributions to the fund and reduce reliance on foreign funding for political parties, because that ultimately that may impair our sovereignty. So it's an important overriding strategic issue to preserve the sovereignty of the country. The issue about fake job advertising, of course, we are trying to get to all South Africans through yourselves to say that the jobs that are available in the Commission are advertised on the official website of the Commission, as well as its official social media platforms. Anything that is not official, in other words, either from our website or our social media platforms, it's intended to deceive people and have their personal information which can be abused. So we are appealing to all job seekers as they apply to make sure that the site on which they apply is the authentic Electoral Commission's website. Of course, we are also having some technical solutions to make an assessment of what is happening in the web and how the IEC name is being used in the World Wide Web. We are successful with others and not as successful with some. So we're not sitting idle. We're working hard to protect the personal data of all South Africans, whether they become successful applicants or not. It doesn't matter. They are South Africans, and it is our duty to protect the integrity of their personal information. Thank you.
No, thank you very much, CEO, DCO. I think this brings us to the end of the today's media briefing. Of course, we'll give you another round where you can do the one-on-one interviews. So we'll give you that opportunity to engage with the leadership of the organization. On that note, thank you very much for coming to the Elections House. I'm sure we'll see you quite often this time around as we lead to the 2026 local government election. Thank you very much.